These books are on fire! Okay, today we're going to talk about books that have fiery themes. These are thriller/horror books that are of the element of fire. This is continuing on in the series that I'm doing that's going to be Water, Fire, Earth, and Wind. We've already did Terror by the Sea, which was a video about, just as it sounds, Terror by the Sea that was all water-based horror. I'll put a link down below to that if you're interested in checking it out. So today we're going to talk about some books with fiery themes. And the first one is The Fires by Sigur, Hagelin, Bjornsdottir. Hopefully I'm saying that name correctly. The author is Icelandic, and it is about Iceland and how underneath Iceland there is all this like network of all these volcanoes and fault lines and whatnot, and then all these eruptions that happen over the years. In this book, these volcanologists, they keep track of that, try to, make sure if there's a catastrophic event that's possibly going to occur because of these eruptions, that they're able to warn the people and have them evacuate in time. So there's been some really suspicious activity that's happening with these volcanoes. At one point, all these political people are kind of brought in to be on the committee that makes decisions, what's the best for people. But the political people, they don't care about anybody. All they care about is dollar signs and money. They don't want to upset the herd. So things that normally they would be like, okay, we're at this level of emergency, is not happening because of these horrible political people, but they don't give an F. Because of this, something catastrophic will most likely happen. Also tied into that, it's also a love story as well. So you have that element of it. It's not gonna end well because of the whole subject matter of the book, but it's heartfelt, it's emotional, it's sad, it's really moving. It's so weird too, is after this book was written, actual very similar eruptions started happening in Iceland. I don't remember the exact years or time frame. It was a really good book. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and it was very fiery. So the next fiery theme book is Scorch by Margo, Dewey. This story is about a queer punk rock nun, and her name is Sister Holiday, and she comes to become part of the Sisters of the Divine Blood. And when she gets there, almost immediately, there ends up being a fire that happens at the school where they teach. So that happens, and then they're trying to figure out what happened. And this is a mystery/thriller book. And so once that happens, then all of a sudden a series of arson starts happening, and so they need to get to the bottom of it and figure out who's doing this, why is this being set on fire, and there's a bit of a horror element to it, so you could say mystery thriller horror. It kept me guessing. I really, honestly, I don't think I had a clue who it was till very close to the end. I kind of suspected everyone, so I like when a book can do that. I like that I wasn't able to immediately be like, oh, it's definitely this person. I like when I'm wrong about it in a mystery, so that's half the fun of it, right? If you automatically know and it is who you assume, that's a crappy mystery. So this one was really great. It had fiery themes, it had a queer punk rock nun, you get into her backstory and her history. I have a standalone review for that one. I can post the link down below as well if anyone is interested in checking that out. And I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Firestarter by Stephen King. I read this book years ago and then saw the movie years ago, the one with Drew Barrymore. I have not seen the newer one that they released in the last couple of years. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, I don't know. If you're not familiar with Firestarter, the premise is there's this couple, Andy and Vicky. They were college students, and when they were college students, they were looking to make some extra cash, as poor college students tend to do, give blood, plasma, whatever. So they volunteer to be test subjects for this experiment that's by this shady government organization known as The Shop. The outcome unlocks this exceptional latent psychic talents of the two of them. They fall in love and end up having a child, and that child is Charlie. And Charlie has the ability of pyrokinesis. She can just set things on fire with her mind. She doesn't have the best control of this power. And of course, there's bad people out there who want to take her and use her for their own diabolical needs and whatnot. It's a great story. It's a great horror book if you haven't read it. I haven't read it in a million years. I remember liking it quite a bit, but I can't say as in present time. This is one that I definitely need to go back and reread at some point. Okay, next up we have Unbury Carol by Josh Malerman. And this one, the fiery themes come from the bad guy in this, and his name is Smoke. And he has a penchant to try and set things on fire. He is in pursuit of this man who is going to try to save Carol because Carol has this weird thing that her husband knew about, and then her one friend, and her one friend who knew passes away. And so her husband married her for all her money, and like he decides when she falls into this weird comatose state where you can't tell that she's alive or not, that he's just gonna say she died and take all her money and whatnot. But a letter makes its way to this guy that Carol used to know, and then he sets off to save her, but in hot pursuit of him is this bandit Smoke, and it's all about, will the hero make it there in time to save her, or will Smoke get him with his horrible fiery ways? Well, you have to read the book to find out. And if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about Unbury Carol, I do have a review for that, and I'll link that down below as well. And the most recent book I've read in this series of fiery books is the book Alice by Christina Henry. It's a retelling of Alice in Wonderland. It starts out and she's in this insane asylum. The place gets set on fire. She's been there for I think like 10 years. And when the fire happens, her and her cellmate, Hatcher, next door, Hatcher, like the Mad Hatter, they escape. And then it's their journeys going forward, you know, and the characters that they come across and meet, like Tweedledee and Tweedledum, only they have different names, and the caterpillar and the walrus and the carpenter, and how they do this book. This is what I would definitely say read content warnings, because it's about human trafficking and sex trafficking and like this effed up old city and all this stuff. But the way it's written, I really enjoyed it. There's magical elements to it. It's like a horribly dark fairy tale gone wrong. And there's gonna be another book, The Red Queen, and I've been told there's 3 in this series, so I guess there's gonna be 3. I don't know what the third one is called, but I definitely want to get The Red Queen and get that. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was pretty great. The beginning part was where all the fire was, so it wasn't themed throughout the whole book, but I thought it was a big enough part of that story where I thought that this was a fairy book, and I thought it was a really great one that I enjoyed. Some people might find this a bit more upsetting because of the content of the trafficking and whatnot. There is some upsetting stuff, so always check your content warnings when going in to read a book, especially, you know, if it's horror or even fantasy. Like, check your content warnings if you're concerned with it. If you're looking for some books with a fiery nature, these are the fiery reads that you need. So as I said before, this is in the Elemental series that I'm doing, and if you haven't had a chance to see the Terror by the Sea video for the element of water, that will be the next video coming up. So stick around, check it out, and if you had fun hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.